Welcome back to another episode of All Mods 10 to the Sky. Today's kind of an exciting episode. We are going to be talking about extreme reactors, as you've seen. And we've got base additions. That is not how it's going to look. This looks hideous at the moment, but we're going to make it pretty. I just didn't have enough time and I wanted to get an episode out, so I'm going to leave the build like this until we can fix it later on. Oh my god. So I wanted to make an episode that kind of shows how easy and quick it could be to set up the whole progression line for extreme reactors to get Insanite, so you can get the really high powered turbines. I feel like there isn't a lot of resources that do that, so hopefully this will be good. I'm not going to be going through like all the minute details about extreme reactors, but hopefully I can show you an easy way to go through the whole thing. We are also going to be using bees to kind of boost our process along the way, and I have done my best to make as many little information things to display on the screen. And speaking of that, before we even get started with anything, I just want to make all of the crafting patterns for all the things that we're going to need. So here is a little illustration of everything that we're going to be making. So pause the video for a moment and then just make all these recipes, so that way it'll be easier going forward. And while we're at it, let's make a couple of 256 million. You don't have to make them this big. But let's make a couple 256 million storage components that we can use to store the fluids as well as the items from this mod. Partition all of these guys. So the ingots, we're going to do the plutonium, the cyanite, magentite, all these graphite I already have. We should also grab one equal distribution card to put in there. All right, that should be everything for this guy. And then the fluid cell housing is going to get all of the fluids. And I believe these are the only things we need now, but if we do, we could go ahead and add those later. I'm going to set everything up basically, and then we're going to kind of get started from there. So the very first thing I want to do is set up 3 fluidizers. And these are the ingredients you need for each fluidizer. So for example, we need 53 casings, right? What I can do is say 53 casings for every single one of these fluidizers, and I need 3 of them. So you just do times 3, and then it's going to make that for you, right? So we have that, and I'll just go to make the rest of the items. And the way the fluidizers work is in a 5x5. So we make a little 5x5. Once you have a little 5x5 box, you can put your glass down, and I like using these sticks to basically complete it quickly. And the top, I'm going to put glass as well, but you can put casings on any of the walls. You can change the casings and the glass as you wish, but this is how we'll set it up. And then I'm going to put the controller up here in the front, and in the back, we can put supports. So I guess in the middle, we can, it doesn't matter where you put these guys as long as it's on a face. So we're going to put the power port over there, the output on the right side, and then the solid injector will go on this side. So as soon as I do that, you can see that this fluidizer has formed and now the GUI is active. What I'm going to do is use our copy paste gadget, and all of these, the rest of the stuff, I can go ahead and put inside of our applied logistics system. And when you did times 3, you're going to be making the exact same amount of the items that you need to use. So in our applied logistics system, if I search fluidizer, you can see I have the rest of these items to make 2 more fluidizers, except actually the casings. Since the casings are used in other things, do that craft last. So I'm going to need to make some more. And as you can see, my copy paste gadget is bound to our applied logistics system, so it's going to be able to pull all those things from it. So super easy. Right click on the first corner and then shift right click on the second corner, and it's going to copy that thing. And we will put it in paste mode. And if I go to the settings menu, just zero all those out. And then 1 block away, I can build our second one. And then 1 block away from that, we'll build our third one. It's that easy. And this last one is going to need 2 solid injectors. So I'll poke a hole in there. We'll make another solid injector. And that guy's going to use 2 of them, just like that. Oh, you know what? Before we move forward, I'm going to set down some inventory cables from Super Factory Manager. So I've got those guys. And we can use the exchanging gadget. And basically what I'm going to do is exchange a horizontal row all the way around this base. Okay, something like that. And I guess in the middle here, we can put our manager block and connect those with more cables like that. And then in the end, we're going to facade this the same as our concrete, but for now I'll leave it just so we can easily notice it. So our fluidizers are set up, and directly above the fluidizers, we are going to build 3 reactors on top of each of those. And this is everything you need for the reactor. So go ahead and make all of those blocks. And once you have that, we're going to build that directly above this. 1 block, I guess 1 block above it. Same exact situation. So we're going to do a 5x5 just for it to match. The maximum size for these things is 32 by 32 by 48, I believe. I'll double check and post the exact dimensions for the reinforced version. If you have the basic version, it's maximum 5x5. So everything we're building today is going to be the reinforced version. We're going to do the 5x5 base, and we're going to go up 19 blocks. The reason why I'm doing 19 blocks is because it is the maximum size I can fit inside of this building. You can feel free to make it larger. It just produces things a little bit faster. All right, once you have the frame built like that, we can go ahead and set the glass down all along the edge, just like this, and use our construction stick to build it up. I'm going to fill the interior completely with fuel rods. This makes the reactor less efficient, which means it burns fuel faster, which is actually what we kind of want in this case, because we want to be able to produce the byproduct of it a little bit faster to be able to move through the progression of this mod. So fill it all the way up with the fuel rods, and then the very last layer gets 9 of these control rods. And then we're going to go to the front over here. That guy is going to be our controller. And in the back, we'll open up some holes. And we'll do a similar thing in the back over here. So we'll put our Active Forge Energy power tap in the center. And then we'll have 2 of these solid access ports on the sides. And that should be everything. So you can see this guy has also formed, and you can access the GUI. So what I'm going to do again is use our copy paste gadget. I am going to go into copy form, right click on this first corner, and then fly up to the second corner, shift right click up there. You can see the outline in this. So I have copied that now, and we can paste it over on top of these guys. So there's that one and that guy. Now the next thing we need to build are these reprocessors. But if you notice, if you try to make reprocessors, it requires Cyanite, and we don't have that. So we're going to have to set up this these fluidizers and reactors first, at least one of them, to be able to get Cyanite. So let's start with that. Over here, I'm going to put our Super Factory Manager controller. So that'll go over there, and then we can access this. Right next to that, we'll put an oversized interface, just like that. For power, I usually stock the power inside the interface, and you can push and pull to the interface. But because we're going to be producing so much power, it's going to be better if we use a flux accessor. So in this case, I'm also going to add a flux accessor, and then we will need our wireless connector. So wireless connector just goes, these all 3 will connect together. Clear the settings. I'm going to link this to the wall of wireless connectors in our system. right over there. So these guys are online and now we can start doing things with them. So we're going to need to keep some uranium stocked in here. I'll do a stack of uranium. And what we're going to have to do is connect the rest of the things. So I'll connect all three of these together, and then we're going to go up and connect these guys up with the inventory cables as well. Same deal for this guy. All right, and the first thing we want to do is go ahead and put uranium inside of the reactor. So let's set that up. We'll call this, and I'll call this uranium port for now. Maybe we'll change it later. I haven't decided yet, but basically we're just inputting the uranium from the interface and outputting it to the port. If I go ahead and use my label gun and copy the labels, so there's the interface and then we have the uranium port. I'm going to do that as the input on the left side. So I'll keep that consistent for all of my reactors and stuff. So that guy is going in there. As soon as I push this in, we can see that this is filling up with uranium. It seems a little bit slow, so let's see if we can stock more than this. So I can do 1,024 of the uranium ingots, and hopefully that can fill this thing up all at once. All right, now when I turn this on, it's going to get really hot. And because we put control rods all on the inside with no kinds of cooling, our heat is going to be really high. So this reactor is going to be very inefficient and burn up a lot of fuel. We want that in this case because we're trying to produce cyanite. The byproduct of this reactor is cyanite. So on this second port over here, I'm going to change it to the outlet mode. And this is where the cyanite ingots will appear as soon as it's burned up enough of it. So you can see right now we are full of power, and we can use this power to put it inside of our FE cell. So if we go over here, let's do another statement. And with this one, we have the FE input, and we can pull from there and output it to the flux accessor. So let's pull our new labels. There's the flux accessor. And here is the FE input. Now, this reactor isn't going to be really producing a ton of power compared to the other ones, the turbines we're going to be setting up. This guy only does 340,000 FE per tick. So it's not that bad. We need to connect our flux accessor with cables. Don't forget that. Now this guy should be getting emptied. And actually for the power tap over here, you want it to be the passive one. So just make sure it's passive. Otherwise, I don't know, I was having problems with Super Factory Manager pulling it. So you can see a little bit later, this is all the power from here is going into our flux accessor. So if we turn it back on, you can see this buffer isn't building up anymore because it's going into our cell. And over here, we are getting cyanite. So make sure you put this on outlet mode. And here are the cyanite ingots. We need to put that inside of our interface. So we're going to pick up from the reactor solid access port and output it to the interface. And we're going to have to label that guy as well and push to our thing. So now we're getting cyanite inside of our system. You can see the cyanite is happening rather slowly. So to speed up this process a little bit, I'm going to make the Cyanite Bees. And in order to make these, you need cyanite blocks. So we're going to need at least 18 cyanite to begin with. So we can make 2 Cyanite Bees and then we'll breed them together. And that takes the radioactive bee, which is an iron bee and a Cree bee. And the Cree bee is just feeding TNT to a normal bee. I am just finishing my Cyanite Bees. It takes a little bit to get your first 18 cyanite because you need 9 for the bee and then you need 9 for the flowering block. Once you have that, you can time wand it and it'll go much faster. So now I'm getting hundreds of cyanite. Oh, thousands actually, no problem. So the bees definitely make this much faster. And if you didn't have the bees, you would have to make a much bigger reactor than this to get a higher burn rate for it. All right, so we're going to keep the cyanite in here. 1024 for this one as well. All right, up next, let's set up our reprocessors. And these are all the things we're going to need for every reprocessor, and we'll need 5 of them. 5 reprocessors. The reprocessors are a 3x3x7 block. So we make a 3x3. The collector goes on the bottom over here in the center. And then we're going to go up 7 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, what I'm going to do is that and then build up. The top gets the waste injector right over there. On the bottom, we're going to open up all of those, and I will put a controller down over here, and then we will put glass on top. You don't have to put the glass, but it's going to be nice to see because it like drops the ingots down. And then in the back, we need a power port to make it work. So I'll put that as the first thing. Then we need a fluid injector and an output port. So what the reprocessor does is it combines an ingot and a fluid to give you something else. Looks like we missed something right over there. So again, once you have this set up, we're going to do the same thing with our copy paste gadget. We are going to go to copy mode, shift right click on this first corner, or sorry, right click on that first corner, shift right click on the second corner. And then we will go to paste mode and put 5 of these guys down. So we got 1, 2, sorry, that was 3, 4, and 5. All right, those guys you can see all formed into multi-blocks, and we can access their GUI. We do need to connect everything with cables back here, so we just go up all the way to this. So believe it or not, this is the setup that we're going to need to make everything all the way up to Insanium. So we have all the reactors set up. We just need to start moving the materials in between them. So the first thing we're going to have to make is Blutonium, and that is done in our first reprocessor. So we have the cyanide over here. We also need some water. So I'll keep as much water in here as we can. And we're going to start with that. So we're going to input a Cyanite Ingot from the interface, and we're going to output that to the cyanide port. Then we pick up the water from the interface and output that to the water port. So if we grab our labels, here is the cyanide port is going to be up here. It's the waste injector. The water port will be the fluid injector. And then let's also, so we do need to give this power to work. So what we're going to do over here is put a forget, and then we're going to input FE from the flux accessor and output that FE to, I'll say FE port. So the fluidizers over here that need power. So here's the power port. So I'll go ahead and tag all of those. As well as the ones back here for the reprocessors. And if we double check, these guys have power and the reprocessors have power as well. So our first reprocessor is basically almost fully set up. We just need to turn it on, and that's going to start making plutonium. And the plutonium is going to end up inside of our output port over here. So what we need to do is just make a collection for that, and we can just label every single one of these as that. Because all we have to do with the output port is just pick up the items and put it in the interface. All right, and now we should be getting plutonium, just like that. So I'm going to stock plutonium inside of our system. By the way, you can't time one these guys. I tried. After plutonium, we're going to set up our first fluidizer. And this guy just takes something in item form and turns it into a fluid. And we're going to do that with the cyanite. You know what? I'm going to clean up this code a little bit. So for you guys, when you copy it from the paste bin below, it's going to be set up more cleanly for you. But I'll do that. I'll clean up this area afterwards. But I think I'm going to split it up into Fluidizer, Reactor, and the Reprocessor. So over here, I'll just set up the Fluidizer. So we're going to pick up everything from the interface and output plutonium ingots to the plutonium port. And this is going to allow me for the later on ones to basically just have 2 more output statements, and then we'll have it all organized. And then we're going to pick up the fluid that it's going to make, which is going to be, oh, actually, sorry, this is cyanite. So that'll make cyanite, liquid cyanite, which we can pick up and put inside of the interface. So there's that guy. And we can just look in here. So our cyanite port is going to be this first solid injector. And then our fluidizer output is going to be this output port. And we can label the output the same way we did for the reprocessor. So all 3 of these will get that. All right, we push that in. And this guy has Cyanite Ingot, and we can turn it on, and it's going to start producing liquid cyanite. Then we take that cyanite and stock it inside of this interface, and we are ready to move on to the next step, which is making Ludicrite. Right, so in this case, we're again going to input all of the ingots from the interface, then output the plutonium ingot. Let me fix this actually like that. And we're going to output that to the plutonium port, and then pick up all the fluids and output the cyanite to the cyanite port, cyanite fluid port. So the plutonium port is going to be up here, just like the cyanite port. And then the cyanite fluid port will be this guy over here. And when we push that in, this has the plutonium, and we can turn that on. And now we should be getting Ludicrite. Up next, we want to make the Magentite ingots, and that one is done through our second reactor. I'm just going to label the FE port of both of these reactors over there so we have it. And if we go ahead and make our reactor tab over here. All right, so we're again, same exact setup. We're just inputting everything from the interface, and we're going to output and filter the plutonium ingots to the plutonium port. And then we're going to pick up from the reactor solid port, put that in the interface. So here's plutonium port. That is going to be the one on the left where it's going to be the input. And then the reactor solid output is going to be this guy over here. So again, same thing with, same thing with this one, as well as this first one. I'm going to change the name. So this is going to slowly fill up with plutonium. We're running out of plutonium as we're making Ludicrite with it. So at this point, I'm going to make the plutonium bee. All we have to do is breed some of our cyanite bees together to get their spawn eggs. And then we're going to put that inside of our reprocessor to get the plutonium. And it's going to change into that. So I've got the 5 cyanite bee spawn eggs, and I'm going to put that over here. And you can see that's going in there, and it's going to turn into the plutonium bee spawn eggs. And right here where we're doing the plutonium, because right now I'm out of plutonium that I need for bees, I'll just comment that out for a second, as well as this one. And our plutonium ingots are going to build up over here, and I need 9 of them for the bees. So once that's done, I can go ahead and remove these comments. And everything will start working again. And we put our plutonium bees over here. Give them a little encouragement. So now we can turn on our plutonium reactor. And that's going to start producing Magentite. And as you can see, when you start using better fuels in the reactor, you get more output. So these are the exact same size, the exact same burn rate. And this one that's using plutonium is making 456,000 Fe per tick, while this one that's using uranium is only making 340 Fe per tick. So these reactors themselves also make a decent amount of power, but nothing compared to the turbines. And while we're at it, I'm gonna use the Magentite in here to make the bees for this as well. And here is our Magentite bees. For the interest of time, I'm gonna stop talking about the bees as you're doing this. And if you notice you can't keep up with one of the resources, just go ahead and make the bees for it. With our newfound Magentite, we're going to put that in the Fluidizer. So let's go over here where it says Fluidizer. And then all we have to do here is just go make a new line. And we're gonna say output that ingot to just like that. And let's grab our labels. That's where that goes. And we should be getting, oh, we just have to turn it on. There it is. Now we're going to take this Magentite liquid and combine it with Ludicrite to make our next ingot, which will be Ridiculite. So let's go to our reprocessor. So over here under the items, we're going to output Ludicrite. And then over here under fluids, we're going to output the fluid Magentite to just like that. And for these reprocessors, I'm also going to add input from the reprocessor output port and output to interface. And we can get rid of this line. All right, so let's grab our labels from the new ones and go ahead and put it over here. We have the Ludicrite port, that's going to be the one up here. And then the Magentite fluid port is going to be this guy over here. We push that in, and now this guy is going to be making Ridiculite. Let me turn it on. Raining again. All right, so the next thing we need to make is some Verderium fluid, and that is done in our last Fluidizer. And in this case, we're going to need 2 solid injectors because we're going to be combining 2 ingots together to get the Verderium. So what we're going to do is under our Fluidizer. So in the last Fluidizer, we're going to be combining uranium and plutonium ingots together. Now, these port names are the same exact ones as what we're using for like these guys. So you can just label it the same. And because it's the same label, it's going to be outputting those resources inside of our Fluidizers. So it's kind of redundant to have to write it again under our Fluidizer code. But I like redundancy because if we ever want to change this code or stop something or whatever, we can turn off our reactors, for example, but keep the Fluidizers going. So that's kind of why I prefer doing it that way. So we need the uranium port, which will be this bottom guy, and then plutonium will be that guy over there. And as soon as we push that in, both of these are here, we can turn it on and start getting Verderium. Now this Verderium, oh, it's also a fluid. So Verderium is going into our system now, which we can keep stocked over here. And this is going to be for our last reactor over here that's going to be using it. Because that is a liquid, so all these guys are using ingots, right? So it's an item input hatch. This is going to be a passive forge fluid port that we're going to be putting. And the output is also going to be a fluid port because that's going to give us Rossinite fluid. All right, so let's set that up. So that is going to be under our reactors. And you know what I can do is instead of solid, so reactor solid output, I'm just going to do it as reactor output. And we can pick up both items. So we can say item : comma, fluid, : So we'll pick those up from the reactor output port and output again item, comma, fluid to the interface. So the reactor output I'm going to label as these guys. And then that guy was the Verderium fluid port. So we push those in, and now we should have the reactor solid output as a sign in the world not defined code. If you just shift right click this, it's going to remove those labels. So now if we check back here again, since I shift clicked, you can see that it removed those labels automatically for us because we're not using it in the code anymore. But you're not going to have to worry about that because the code I post will be updated. I made a little mistake, guys. For this last reactor, since it's using liquid fuel, we need to put a reactor fuel injection port. And we're going to set this to inlet mode for the Verderium. And then on the other side, we're going to set it to outlet mode for the Rossinite. So now this guy's filling up, and when we turn it on, you can see it's going to start producing Rossinite. So we are done with all of our fluidizers and all of our reactors. We just have to set up these last two reprocessors, and then we will have Insanite. So we're going to output the fluid Rossinite to the Rossinite fluid port, and then we're going to output Ridiculite to the Ridiculite port and Benitoite to the Benitoite port over there. That's going to be our last two things. So here are our Rossinite. So these last two are going to use Rossinite. And this is going to be the Ridiculite and Benitoite. How do you say that? Benitoite, I guess. Benitoite port. Let's not forget to push our labels. So this one should start, just have to turn it on. So we're getting Inanite, but this last fluidizer needs Benitoite, and we don't have any of those. If you take a look at Benitoite, you can see that the ore spawns in the nether, but obviously we have a void nether, so we can't go mining there for it. And if you take a look at this recipe, we can get it from industrial foregoing laser drills. So, oh my god. Oh, can't escape the rain. So we're just going to set that up over here. Do something very temporary. And this guy gets a blue lens. Oh, by the way, if you take a look at the requirements, you can see that it's any dimension. So you don't have to be in the nether. And nothing is blacklisted either. So should work over here. And then between Y level 5 and 256, everything is going to work. And that's in between there. So that seems okay. We'll go ahead and put up speed upgrades in all of these. Then all we have to do is just power these guys. So we're getting all of these garbage things. That should be good enough. And with this 15, I can make the bees, and we only really need 3 because you need 2 to make the bees, and then you can breed the bees together. And their flowering item is a Benitoite. So with the bees set up, we can put these guys over here, and that should go over here. All right, that's it. That is the last thing we need to get Insanite. So now we are getting Insanite ingots. That means we are ready to set up our turbines, and everything's going to be great. So this is the little area we have set up for our turbines. Turbines do run off of steam, and we're going to need to set up another reactor to run the steam. In our case, we're going to be setting up a 7x7x7 reactor for the steam, and these are all the things we're going to need for it. So let me go ahead and request those, and then we can start building it. All right, let's go ahead and build this guy. And again, we're going to want to make an inefficient one, so we produce, so we have a higher burn rate. So that's why I'm just filling everything up with these rods. And the same thing, the top, it's going to get all of these. And at the back over here, so in the front actually, dead center, we'll put our controller. And back here, we'll need to put our ports. So on one side, I'm going to do my fluid ports. On the other side, I'm going to put my solid ports. The top one I'll leave as inlet, which we're going to be putting uranium. The bottom one, we're going to do outputs because it's going to make a little bit more cyanite. So we'll put that just in our system. And then same thing over here, inlet for water, and then it's going to output steam. So let's connect these guys up with cables. And this is a formed reactor. Perfect. So let's go over here and set this up. Actually, we already have everything. If I just grab my label gun. So we're going to need uranium. That's going to be our uranium port. Then we have the output port, the reactor output port, which is that guy. We have a water port, which is up here. And the very last thing we need to make, let's start with that. And we'll deal with the steam after we have our turbine set up. So when we push that in, you can see this is starting to fill up. And when we turn it on, it's going to start producing steam. We do need the water to be able to keep up. So it looks like Superfactory Manager is able to do that. Let's go ahead and edit our code. So here's our steam reactor. We are picking up the water from the interface and outputting it to the water port. And then we're going to pick up the steam from the steam output and put it inside of the steam input of the turbines. But as you saw just a little bit ago, the water isn't able to keep up with the reactor. So what I'm going to do is copy this exact same code and paste it down here. So now it's going to do that twice, but I want to offset it by 5 ticks. So I'm going to do plus 5 ticks. And what this is going to do is every 20 ticks, it's going to run this code. And then 5 ticks after that is going to do this code. So if I add that one more time and do plus 10 ticks, and then do that once again and do plus 15 ticks, now I have bypassed the 20 tick limit, and this is basically the same as doing every 5 ticks do. So the steam in the water is going to basically be happening every 5 ticks. Okay, with that on, this guy is producing steam. So you can see that is full now. And we need to set up our turbines out. This guy as a 7x7 is going to be able to do about 19 buckets of steam, and each turbine is going to use 2,000. That means we can set up 8 turbines with this guy. And these are all of the things we're going to need for each turbine. So just multiply the numbers by 8. And again, if you forgot, you can do that in JEI. These turbines are going to require a lot of cyanite. I think around 10,000 cyanite. So just time 1 your bees or something to get that very cyanite heavy. So let's go ahead and build our first one. This is going to be a 5x5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We fill the center, and then in the middle over here, we're going to put the turbine rotor bearing. Then we want to go up 24 blocks. So this is 1. All right, the top I'm going to fill in as well. Then we are going to take our Insanite blocks. So we're actually only going to put 2 layers of the Insanite coils. That's going to give us a better result than having all 3 layers, because these have a lot of resistance and it slows down your turbine a lot. So in the center here, we're going to do these rotor shafts. And 4 blades, just like that, all the way up to the top. And while we're up here, we will use the turbine glass. The very front over here will be our controller. You can see that formed, and in the back, we're going to open up 2 spots. One will be for our power. So this guy will be for our steam, and this guy will be for our power. And that's it. Let's put all these guys back. We're going to use our copy paste gadget. Right click on that corner. Shift right click on that corner. And we can paste this structure. Four of them like so. And if we hold this, we can rotate it. And it'll give it to us over here. So being able to copy paste these guys is a huge, huge help. All right, so let's grab our Super Factory Manager cables for this guys. And those are all hooked up. Let's grab some new labels from here. What was this? That one, FE input. So if we take a look at FE input, we already have those guys set up. So we're just going to tag all of these with FE input, push that in, and we're going to have to set our code. So the Steam input and output also. So let's take a look at Steam. The Steam input will be from our reactor over here. There's our Steam input. And the Steam output is going to be these guys. All right, let's go ahead and push those labels in. And actually, I need to be able to split the steam between all of those guys. Let's take a look where we're doing that. So if we're going to be doing this every 5 ticks, right? And if each of the turbines are going to need 2,000 millibuckets per tick. So times 5, that's 10,000 millibuckets for every time this runs that we need to output to the steam output, right? So I'm going to say output 10,000, but let's bump it up a little bit, like 10,010 to the steam output. And we're going to have to say each to each steam output. So that way it splits 10,000 between all of them. Then we can copy this again and do the +5 tick thing. All right, now if we turn this guy on, you can see he is not keeping up with water. So these guys we're going to turn on as well. When you first turn this on, your coils are going to be disengaged. You want to build up a little bit of speed at first. So you see when you first start it, the turbines are going to spin very slowly because they have a lot of resistance in those Insanite coils. And then you want to build your RPMs up to around 1800. Once you get to around 1800, you're going to engage the coils. So we're going to wait until that happens, and hopefully this guy can keep up. So water is not doing so hot. I might just use a sink and do integrated dynamics for that, for the water. Or actually, because the water tank is 200 millibuckets or 200 buckets, and we only have 64 over here. Let's see if maybe we add a couple more of those to get up to the 200. If that won't help. Because now there's a bigger buffer for Super Factory Manager to grab from. So you can see now the water seems to be okay. We are making a consistent 19 to 20 buckets per tick. So I guess you could maybe squeeze in one more turbine, but as you see, these guys are using 2,000 millibuckets per tick as the flow rate. So it's 2 buckets, we're making 20 buckets, so we can have 8 to 10 of these turbines constantly running. So right now we are still not producing any power from these guys. Why does this one not have steam? You know what? I know what's going on. Since we're only making 20 buckets per tick, when we split that up, doing it 5 times, it's not enough for all of the turbines. So I might just change this up again. Sorry, I'm kind of troubleshooting this on the go. So we can just get rid of this again. And instead of every 20 ticks do, we can do every redstone pulse do, and do our redstone timer with a piece of redstone. And set this to 2 ticks. So now this is going to happen every 2 ticks instead of 20 ticks. So make sure this is on still. And it looks like this is working, and these guys should all be full. So all of those are going now. All we have to do is wait until the RPMs get to around 1800, and then we're going to engage the coils. You can engage it sooner, but it'll just take a longer time for the RPMs to run up because of that resistance. So you see how fast it's going right now? If I engage it, we're making power, we're making 22 million FE per tick, but you can see this is going up much slower. If I disengage it, it's going to go up faster. So we'll just hit that 63 million FE per tick mark a little bit quicker. So you can see these guys are engaged and starting to level off at around 63 million FE per tick that it's making. So they'll kind of level off and everything will equal out about 63, 64 million FE per tick. So let's go ahead and check our... So for some reason, to me, it seems like Super Factory Manager's having a hard time pulling this much power from all of them. It shouldn't be a problem because it's only 500 million per tick. So I'm thinking maybe it's because of the redstone tick that we just added. So if I grab another manager to test this out, I can put this guy over here. And if we try this, it could also be that it's the flux accessor too. What if we do like flux accessor each side? Would that make it work better? So it looks like if I do the separate manager, so I have a separate manager over here doing the power, and it's doing each side for it. This seems to be working okay. If I come over here, for example, you can see this one isn't full. That means it's pulling it out. So the reason why it's 63 million FE in the buffer is because that's how much it's making. So if I disengage it, you can see it disappears real quick. So that means it's keeping up with this one. For some reason, if I don't know why it's not keeping up if I don't do the each side. Maybe the flux accessor has a limit. It's not supposed to have a limit on how much it can take, but I guess maybe 500 million is a little too much for it. But all of these guys are producing now, and if we take a look at our FE, you can see it's going up much faster now. Let's go check our throughput monitor. We should be getting a little over 500 million FE per tick. Actually, it might be a little bit less because one of the turbines is not active. Yeah, 447 million FE per tick. Perfect. One of our turbines is booting back up. So that's why there's one missing. This guy. It's only at 600 RPMs now, but I can engage it now and it's going to start producing power too, and then slowly build up to the 1800 RPM. That's the sweet spot. Around 1800 RPMs is where you want to be. One very last thing, let's go ahead and facade our things over here. Yep, facade all of them. So now our base looks nice and clean all the way around. We can facade these guys as well. I am going to figure out a way to hide this. Maybe we put a cog block over here. And then we can facade the cog block. So let's do that real quick. Just like that. Steam is still working. It's making 19 buckets per tick. Perfect. So we can get rid of that. Oh no. Oh no. And if we use camo, we can hide that. Ho ho ho. All right, that's it, guys. Sorry, I don't know why I'm dragging this along. So here it is, our industrial or our extreme reactors set up in a nice and concise way. And with these 8 turbines, we are making 500 million FE per tick. So we will never have to worry about power for the rest of the pack again. This is pretty much overkill, but you can make a little bit bigger. So if you can make like the max size turbines, and I think those guys get a little over 200 million FE per tick. And if you didn't want to make these really tall ones, you can also do a 7x7x14. And those guys will also produce around 63 million FE per tick. I might do a nerd talk episode with extreme reactors, and we can talk about the moderators and all those other things, but obviously not in this episode. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this was a good setup for you guys to follow, and I will see you in the next one.